G'day, listeners. Welcome to Barkarati, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer. It's that time of the week where we get to talk to some really cool sailors. Unfortunately, I have to share it with my two idiot mates. So first off, let's bring in Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
Good evening.
BP, what you doing?
How are you? I'm just sitting here watching my kids have dinner.
Yeah, it's dinner time. That's right. Oh, well.
Yeah, not hungry though.
No.
Not much.
All right, well, let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Gentlemen, happy Mother's Day to you all.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I've had a bit of a blinder actually. Had breakfast in bed, put the feet up.
Nailed it.
No, actually, my kids, they did a glamour job with the presents to top off the new fishing rod Felicity got last week for her birthday.
Yeah.
New tackle
She actually got some golf balls. I think she really knows that I'm taking the piss now.
Yeah. I thought she was going to get some sort of thing that hangs on the Land Rover Discovery. I thought that was next on the agenda.
No, I'm saving that for our anniversary.
Oh. New canvas roof.
That's it. Oh, God.
Very cool. Yes, happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. It's
Mother's Day down this part of the world. It's only here, right?
Yeah,
New Zealand as well?
It was last weekend in Spain, so.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, righto. Cool. Any sailing banter before we rip into our special guest?
No banter this week. It's been pretty quiet.
Well, no, there's
not much going on.
Bit of banter.
Plenty of banter.
M11 regatta coming up.
We'll get to it after the
we got some emails. We got some emails.
Special guests.
All right. Well, we've been saving this special guest for a while. She's been a friend of mine for a long time, but I guess the timing's perfect right now. So we wanted to bring in this guest, quite a unique talent, a female sailor who I guess distinguished herself first. She sailed around the world multiple times, but distinguished herself first by sailing solo around the world unassisted the wrong way. The wrong way. And when I heard about this one, when she first started doing it, I'm going, who's this idiot? Who would do that? But also done the Volvo multiple times, Barcelona World Race, the Vendée Globe, Global Challenge. So probably more sea miles than probably any other female on the planet, I would think. You'd be struggling to think of anyone else that's done any more in a sailing boat at least. But anyway, we're very close to this lass. We have a lot of time for her. She is a great person to be in our sport and does a lot for particularly young sailors. Welcome to the show, Dee Caffari. G'day, Dee.
Hey guys, it's so good to see you.
As opposed to listening to us.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, you guys have been growing and been on a long time now. It's flown by, but I have spent the last couple of years either being off watch with your dulcet tones in my ears, with downloaded podcasts across the Pacific to Hawaii, or out what I call running, but it's probably shuffling, and actually laughing out loud as I'm running around. So you've kind of been keeping me company for some time now.
You're welcome.
That's our goal. That's why we do it.
It must be difficult for you, Dee, because you thought, you had to put up with us for, your two editions of the Volvo where you were around annoying and loud and stupid. You had 6 years of us there, and then you roll into we're out of the Volvo, and suddenly you still got 2 more years of listening to us. We just don't go away. We're like rust.
Yeah, it's like, that bad habit that just keeps going on and on, but it's kind of keeps you company. I don't know, it's something that you're used to, that you're kind of used to hearing. It's reassuring.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we have to talk, the first thing we have to talk about, the obvious one, is the Round the World the Wrong Way. Now, we know your husband just as well, Harry, fantastic bloke. We all love him. Did he piss you off and you just decided to draw it out, or what was the motivation?
Well, he's been around for all 6 laps of the planet, so there's probably some underlying issue there, but it has kept the relationship strong, so maybe being away helps. And I think if I'm home too long, he does kind of say, isn't it about time you went round the world again or something?
Starts leaving a few pamphlets out just on the kitchen table. Oh, what's this?
Ocean
Challenge.
Race 21. Globe Challenge 580, the 580 with Don.
How many sea miles, Dee? Back to the original point of Jordan's.
Do you know what? I'd hate to think in miles, but freeze-dried meals is a lot, which probably explains my cooking, and it hasn't got much better in the last year in lockdown either.
Well, freeze-dried come in handy in lockdown, actually.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. So I'm still stuck on the around the world the wrong way thing. Like, what was it harder? Was it like, obviously you're bashing into the wind coming through the Southern Oceans and stuff? Like, what was were there any onerous times, or was it all just easy?
Oh my God. I mean, there's a reason only 5 of us in the whole world have ever done it. Yeah. It's a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
I was doing the global challenge at the time. So Che Blythe was leading that, and he was the one that did this impossible voyage back in 75. And he's like, oh, it's only a matter of time before a woman should do it. Why shouldn't it be you? And that was enough to plant the seed. And when you're sailing and managing 17 people that are paying for that opportunity to lose themselves, find themselves, or, do whatever they want around the world, you start to figure that it might be easier without the 17 people to manage and just go and do it yourself. And literally 3 months after finishing the global challenge, I set off on that trip on my own. And I hadn't even lived on my own, let alone sailed on my own. So it was I hadn't really considered about spending 24 hours a day with yourself. I kind of just thought about the practicalities of sailing the boat on my own. So it was that transition of suddenly spending all that time with yourself. And when we talk time, I mean, I was between Cape Horn and the Cape of Good Hope for 88 days. And if we think of the Vendée Globe, most of them had done the lap by then. So I was in the Southern Ocean for the time they spend going around the whole world. So
wow.
It's a long time.
And how did you get on with yourself, all right?
I learned I'm not that funny.
Continually got funnier as the trip went on.
I found everyone really funny when I got home, which gave their egos a bit of a boost.
Laughing at?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You do learn a lot about yourself.
Yes, so you would.
How much bashing into the wind was it, though? Was it 88 days of bashing into the wind, or did you sort of dive up and try and find some trade winds? I can't remember the route off my head.
Oh no, I ended up south. I had secondary low after secondary low in the Southern Ocean, so the only kind of route round that is to go down. So I was pretty far south. It was pretty brutal, and I would say probably 80% of the whole trip was upwind.
Oh,
wow.
And that's why it takes you so long. I mean, it took me 6 months, so it takes you easily twice as long when you're zigzagging around the world.
Jeez. Right down south, going upwind for 88 days sounds almost as bad as sailing from Richmond Circle to St Francis Yacht Club at the end of the day in San Fran. Like, that's pretty equivalent, isn't it? Going upwind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Were you? How did you get into the sport? Actually, I know your dad was because on your bio, Dad was a Maltese sea captain, which I think is just one of the best things in the world. Like Maltese sea captain.
Well, yeah, a few generations back, but yeah, it was probably in the blood somewhere. My dad had aspirations of, sitting on his sailboat with brown paper envelopes being delivered to him to keep him in the manner he'd become accustomed to. Right. It was a dream that never came to reality, but it obviously influenced me. But I was happily being a school teacher, but realised I kind of met the right career too early. I still wanted to go and do things and travel and have adventures. And I went on a holiday, which was a diving and sailing holiday. And it was probably, the most extravagant holiday I'd ever been on, and started talking to the guys that were running the boat and the diving, and realized there was, you can get qualifications and go and work in this industry. And I thought, now we're talking. So it was a career change after 5 years. And I went back, got the qualifications, and then started putting in the mileage.
We as a young, like when you're a student, like going to school, did you have that adventure spirit, or this kind of just built once you found your early career?
Or was it the thought of teaching kids for another few years?
Yeah, I know what I'd be doing too. I'd be wanting to sail around the world the wrong way too. Must have been a good class.
Yeah, suddenly I became a cool teacher. Miss, you're not that bad anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I was quite prepared to challenge myself out there. I was quite sporty at school, but it was an avenue or an arena that I didn't really know much about. At university, I sailed for the first time because I did a sports science degree and I did a lot of outdoor activities as part of it. And so that was my first experience of sailing. So it's not like I grew up in little boats or always thought the sea was the place to be. It was literally a complete career change. So I came really late. When people think about what I've done, I didn't really come into the industry until I was 27.
Well, the good thing is some of those journeys you did a lot of extra days, so you built up a lot of experience. Gone the wrong way
I
around.
crammed it in.
Yeah. By the time the first lap was finished, you'd done more sailing than most. Yeah, for sure.
So after that, like those first few laps were on the challenge boats, the 72 footers, but then you swap over to the IMOCA class because you did the Vendée and Barcelona World Race. Changing to, I mean, that's a significant change in boat. Like, did that sort of scare you? Did it excite you? How was that?
It was a baptism of fire. You kind of set off not really knowing what you're doing when you sail off on your own because you'd never sailed on your own and all that kind of thing. And I almost felt like I'd gone back to square one again because I was sailing in a boat I didn't really have that much experience in. And it was really stepping up. I'd gone from being an adventurer to like the professional sailor with these people. I was stood next to the people I read about in the magazines or see on telly and things. So it was a bit of a jump. But I had no worries at all about spending time on my own because I'd done that to death. I had absolute confidence that I could get around the world because I'd been in some pretty miserable conditions. But what I wasn't prepared for was the extremes of sailing in IMOCA. And I learned an awful lot. And it's always the same. By the time you get to the end of your lap, you know how to do it. So you know you could do the next one better. So you're always really keen to go again. But I loved it. I was well up for the adventure. And actually, my Vendée Globe, as I went down the Atlantic, Michel Desjoyaux, who went on to win that year, who's won it twice, he sent me a mail and he was like, don't forget to turn left. So clearly my reputation had gone before me. And I was like, yeah, good point. But that first time where you turn left and you get that whole Southern Ocean underneath you and the boat accelerates, I was like, oh, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
Okay, now I need to hang on for the ride.
Yeah, right.
Did you make any mistakes? Like, was there like one moment where you've just gone,
Yeah, there were some marginal moments, but most of it is about like when things go wrong, how you're going to fix it. You know, if the pilot goes wrong, you're kind of limited in how to fix it when there's nothing to drive your boat. So it's how you manage those kind of scenarios. But you do spend a lot of time and preparation on all the what-if scenarios to give you the best possible chance of dealing with it on the way. Well, as everybody saw this winter, the Vendée is an amazing race. It's incredible. And you get tested beyond just the realms of just sailing.
It's like, we had Pip on a few weeks ago, and it's like she's just gone to another level of stardom because of probably the internet and the way we have more contact with the sailors. It's made a big change, but you actually got a first-hand view of what does go on, and probably makes it a bit more, makes us all appreciate more what happens with you guys. Same thing.
Definitely. I mean, they were like chatting on WhatsApp. I mean, the coverage and the technology now that was supporting them kind of took everybody there. And I think with everybody in lockdown in the rest of the world, we were just craving this escape, and they just delivered in spades. I loved it. I loved the race. Brought back a lot of memories and stirred a lot of emotions. I'd love to be back out there.
The little gag Michelle pulled on you, say, make sure you turn left. If it was in a WhatsApp group, he would have got all little emojis, little smiley faces, thumbs ups.
Thumbs up, claps, or a pray. Just going back there, did you have any contact with Pip at all? Did she speak to you? Obviously you know her, but did you speak to her at all about the race?
Yeah, I actually even went down to Paul and saw her, and we just sat in the cockpit of her boat, and it took a little bit of time to get her to say what was worrying her, because it was at that time where there's just a million things going through her head. And so we were just chatting, and then slowly little things. And it was interesting because it was the same doubts I had, where you think you know how you're going to do everything, but she'd never been in the South. So she didn't know what to expect. And she was like, some people don't jibe. Do I jibe? Or should I chicken jibe? And I was laughing because I remember I had exactly the same conversation. And I said, well, what have you been practicing? She was like, well, I've been jibing. I said, well, do what you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was really interesting to see those same conversations manifest themselves in Pip's thoughts. But she was just so excited. And, pandemic aside, because I think it changed how it paid out for her, like not having her family there at the start and the finish, that took a lot of emotion for her. But, how she delivered on the race, she outsailed the boat, she communicated brilliantly. And as you say, elevated her to a whole new level for the world of sailing, which was just great.
So going back to your first trip, was there a Dee Caffari sitting in the cockpit of your boat with you?
It was funny because I tried that, but actually a lot of the people I had around me were the people that were still racing. So where I'd got the sister ship to Mike Golding, he was doing his own race and he had a very different agenda. So, for example, I took a spare rudder and I'd practice changing my rudder because for me, I had to finish the race.
Yeah.
Whereas I spoke to Mike and I was like, oh, are you taking a rudder? And he's like, no, if I'm changing my rudder, I'm not winning. And it was a complete different mentality. And I was like, oh, and then you start to second guess. But right at the beginning of the campaign, I know I was really lucky. I sat down with Ellen MacArthur and she said to me, just make sure that, all your preparation is part of your day. Don't try and add it on at the beginning or the end because you'll just be too tired. So when you're having to go to the gym, she said, make it part of your day. Don't do it before your day starts because you can't sustain that. And it was just really interesting listening to her talking about managing your time and how much you can give.
Yeah. What was, now this is delving back into the memory banks a little bit, and I think Harry was speaking to me. You had some autopilot issues or something, and basically they had the same system sitting on the bench so it could talk you through the repair. Is that something along those lines?
Yeah, completely. The boat, this was when I went the wrong way around the world, actually.
Yeah.
So I was in the 72. So they had access to the same setup they'd put on because the boat wasn't designed to have a pilot.
Yeah.
So they had the same box and they were working out what was going wrong. And these pilot problems started at the Falklands on my way south. So I had a really long way to go. And there was a big question mark over, is it sensible to put her into the Southern Ocean or not? And all this. And I was just like, I'm not going back now. And I was giving my stubborn, tenacious side. And I ended up stealing something out of the gas system for the oven. Because I sailed with an oven on that boat. That was amazing. But I stole something out of there and kind of bodged a repair into the autopilot. So anything that required cooking in an oven, like all the bread mix that I'd taken, that was rubbish. That got fed to the fish. But it meant that the pilot still kind of worked. And I ended up putting breathers on and to stop the salt water going in. I had little marigold glove fingers on the end that used to blow up and deflate as the system worked. So, it was a real compromise, but it got me round.
I love it.
Wow. And what did your support team look like for that lap?
So those guys were the guys that had been with the Challenge business. So they knew the boats intimately. 4 of them had worked solely on the boat to prepare it for me going on my own. So they kind of knew what changes we'd put on. We'd put a pedestal on, we'd put a furling head sail on, we'd put the autopilot on. So they kind of knew what was going on, and they were literally employed by the business anyway to run the rest of the fleet that were doing corporate sailing, but were there should anything happen. And there was 2 testing times, and the pilot was probably the ongoing headache that everybody had as I did the lap.
Or dragging
bit of a MacGyver job.
Dragging the spinnaker out of the lazarette. Did it see the light of day?
It did, twice.
Yeah.
And that was quite exciting. It was quite a celebration. I had an A sail for the beginning, and I basically got a bit excited at the beginning, left it up until it took itself down. So that was quite short-lived, really. And I thought, well, that doesn't bode well. And then there was another period where I was reaching. I had a window of about 2 days reaching past New Zealand, which was quite exciting because it's the first time I'd been not on the wind. And at the time, Hugo Boss was leaving New Zealand, and Alex was just like, "You're mad." And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm not upwind. This is just great. I'm flying here in my 72-foot, 45-ton steel tank."
Yeah.
So, there was those moments. And then back up the South Atlantic, it was a bit freer, and I had the kite up then for a bit, which was quite exciting. So I was super confident by then because I was on my way home.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing to even consider doing. Like I just blew my mind, like there's a level of toughness in doing that and mental strength that's required to do that I don't think many people would have. It's kind of like going out in the drinks with Bicey, like it takes a bit of planning and mental toughness to get through it.
Or just jump in, dive in head first and see what happens,
Yeah, well, ask Richard Mason about that. It didn't go too well yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit like Brett said, you just kind of jump in. I would think I was suitably naive to not really know what was ahead of me or how hard it would be. And physically,
when you went out for a drink with Bicey,
yeah, I mean, I've done that before as well, and it's not gone too well. But it's the recovery afterwards where you learn most, isn't it?
Yeah. Hit that drive, the debrief.
That's it. So, I guess when did the racing bug hit? Like, because you started out, as you said, from a career perspective, you were thinking of it as a career, and then suddenly you did the I guess it was the Vendée was first, wasn't it? If I'm thinking of timing, the Vendée, did that come to you or did you go to it, sort of thing?
I went to it. I think that moment in the Southern Ocean going the wrong way, where for some reason I couldn't tack, the boat just wouldn't go through the wind. So at that moment, I'd been at sea for God knows how long, and I decided that I'd jibe round, which is normally the wrong way round for everyone. And I bore away and the boat went flat. And I was like, isn't this nice? This is why everyone goes this way. And I did the jibe, enjoyed it just a little bit longer, and then realised that I was actually going the wrong way. So
6 hours later, you decided.
I came back on the wind and started plugging my way back into the slamming motion again. And I was like, I want to go the other way around. But it took a little bit of time when I got back to get a deal and get the sponsor and get the opportunity to do the Vendée Globe. But I knew I wanted to go the other way around. And if you're going to go the other way around, then you go around with the Vendée Globe. Right.
But before we kind of get stuck into the full racing side, your book called Against the Flow, Jordan's actually got his studio set up at home. So if you want to turn it into an audio book, he's going to be more than happy to narrate it for you if you want.
Go.
Oh, narrator.
We could do a bar karate narration
audio
version, a bar karate version of it.
We could just argue all the way through it. That'd be hilarious. It'd be the best rated audio book ever. She's not jumping on it at all.
Nah, that didn't go down too well.
I'm thinking it might be more interesting with the three of you just discussing it as it went along, but it might go on for some time.
We haven't
178 days at sea would be a long time.
Yeah, we haven't moved on to our book reviews yet, but maybe it's a segment piece.
New segment. That section hasn't been risen. You're right.
Actually, well, let's throw that. It's were there any books that when you were young or just getting into it that sort of inspired you? Was there something what inspired you? Was there anything? Was it a book or a film? Was it Hoist the Wampa?
I think I'd kind of grown up and seen Peter Blake in Southampton with the Whitbreads, and knew about Ellen. I knew about Mike. I was very aware of what was going on in the UK and that these guys raced around the world, and it was just that thing that something that every other people do, not something that was attainable for me. And then suddenly, the more you do or the more you open your world up, suddenly these connections become viable and you think, wow. I had no idea that I would end up sailing around the world, let alone doing it 6 times. But the people you meet, the opportunities that arise, the decisions that you make are the ones of which ones you grab and which ones you don't.
I guess the first one, sorry, boss. I guess after the Wongray round the first time, and then you found yourself in a position where people stood up and took notice a bit more. Was that the case?
Yeah, I think it's grown each lap, and I think I did the race, and Che saw something that opened an opportunity to do it solo, and then that gives you the platform to launch a Vendée Globe, which then gave me the opportunity and the invitation to do the Barcelona, and then if you're going around the world, if you've done it solo, the pinnacle crude event was the ocean race, and you're like, how do I do that? And it is kind of just building those blocks as you get that experience and confidence.
has there been an opportunity to be 7 or 8 laps by this point in time? Did you knock any back, or you've just taken them all on?
I've taken them on, actually. I don't think I've missed any out. I mean, writing about and watching and commentating on the Vendée, I was, by the end of it, if people had asked, I would have been like, yes, I want to be there.
Yeah,
I want
sure.
to be there. The reality of that is very different in the real world. But it definitely ignited something in me. But I think the Vendée is quite special. Once it's in you, it's you're part of a special family, and it does bring back a lot of memories.
So
It's
what
a
I
little bit
take,
like the ocean race. I mean, they're all very similar in their bonds that you get with the people that you do these crazy things with.
so what I take from that is you're going again at some stage.
At some stage, there'll be number 7, I hope. Yeah, my fingers are crossed for that.
Yeah. Oh, we're looking forward to that too.
All right, well, let's progress then. I'm not sure which way to go here. I think I might just roll into the Volvo because we can tell some stories there. When that first happened with the team SCA, because that was such a professional, lots of training, the whole thing, how did they approach you, or how did that one come about? Did you apply? Did you approach them?
I probably spent about 18 months applying, which turned into begging, which turned into asking everybody remotely connected with that campaign to see if I could get a window of opportunity. And so I was really late to the party, which in a way was frustrating. And I even got to the point where I was saying, well, at least let me know what training I can do in preparation for it. Because that all the girls had been there training with a trainer for 18 months. And you're like, well, I'm never going to come in as strong as them now because I'm not part of that. So I was getting myself a bit wound up. And obviously a bit frustrated that I wasn't getting the opportunity, but I was quite tenacious. And that's an experience that I pass on to others, because it doesn't matter how many laps you've done or who you are, you still have to get that opportunity to go and prove yourself. And it's not always easy to get, but you can't give up.
Was the difficulty because you were coming from a mocker and going into a Volvo style, into a crude boat? Was that the possibility, or was it just not really happening for you at that stage?
I think by reputation, when you are in a Volvo environment, everyone saw me as a solo sailor.
Yep.
And equally now, when I'm in a solo environment, everyone sees me as a ocean race sailor. So the two don't really marry. They don't help you out that much. And also, I think people just assume that I'll do it myself because I've done my Vendée campaign, I've done things. And here I was trying to join as somebody to be part of a cohesive team, and they didn't believe that I would be that personality.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
How was the transition? You've gone from fully crewed mixed to solo, now to full female crew. Was that something to get used to, or it was quite an easy transition?
I went there with a really open mind, and I was really happy to do whatever role I would be given to fit in. But actually, I did have to sit on my hands a little bit to not do the next person's job, because I came from an environment where I was used to looking at everything and kind of just tweaking everything. And if it's not your job, it doesn't help you doing that. You have to kind of trust the person next to you to give their 100% so you can do your 100%. And it's just kind of finding those boundaries. So it took a little bit of adjustment. And I found it quite hard when you're quite out of the loop, so you're not part of the inner circle and you're just there to do your job, you literally have to switch off from everything else. And I found that quite hard to not feel empowered to know what was going on, to be part of the bigger picture. So it was a transition, but I was also found it a really amazing opportunity to be sat next to some amazing sailors with completely different backgrounds, bringing different things to the game. And I learned quite a lot from them. So it was a really good opportunity.
I guess, well, obviously doing a race like that is quite a special bond in itself with all your crewmates, but were there any special bonds that were created? I
think they're all pretty special. I mean, I've sailed with a lot of them since, and I stay in touch with them all since. And it was interesting seeing how people, there's an ebb and a flow, and not everyone's having a good day or enjoying the same conditions. And there was a level of frustration throughout as well, which added an edge, which you saw some people manage better than others. it was an interesting scenario given the support and the backing we had. But, and it was frustrating with the results until that, the joyous one in Lorient, which made a big difference.
Yes.
And I think that made a big difference. And I think what it has done is it did help facilitate that push for the ocean race to incentivize the rule change and then now mandate it, which has made a difference for women in sailing, which, we should all be proud of being part of that.
Yeah. And that's going to be the future for the ocean race in years to come. So it's something that
sailing in general. I mean, it's on the agenda for everything. Everything we talk about now is that. So it was important for sure.
Yeah.
So when you came into the Volvo, was it because it's a bit different to the Vendée and all the other stuff you've done. It's quite the show, isn't it? Was there a few surprises for you coming into that, or was it just...
It's like the circus had come to town.
Yeah.
More parties. You got 10 stopovers, so...
It is. That's the exhausting part. People think the sailing's hard. It's not. You get a sea for a rest. Yeah, it was. It was the circus had come to town, and actually the sailing part ends up being... a major part, but it's relatively small compared to all the peripherals that go on, whether that's in the prep and the shore team and the boat and the people, or whether that's the pro-am and guest sailing, or whether that's the sponsor, wine and dine and talking bit. There's so much going on in that 10 months that, you end it more tired than you think. And it's not necessarily just from the physicality of sailing.
No, it's an amazing event. If people haven't ever been to it, it is quite incredible. But then, of course, the last edition of the race, you were the skipper. You were in charge of everything, and you had the little turn the tide on plastic. You were doing the ocean research stuff. It was quite a unique boat, the youth boat, I guess is the best way to describe it. But you were more than just racing in that boat. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a few challenges on our hands. It was an amazing opportunity, which is why I jumped at it. I did have a few doubts of, am I the right person for this job? Because I went into the ocean race, it was almost like, again, at the Vendée Globe, where I'm suddenly standing next to the people I've read about or watched on TV. Here I am in the ocean race, where you see and talk to all these names that are legends in their own lifetimes. And then suddenly now I'm a skipper, and I'm expected to walk into the same room and sit around the table with, the Baalbeckings of this world. And I had this massive kind of imposter syndrome on me of like, God, should I be here? Should I be sat at this table? Have I got anything to add? So you do end up with this massive self-doubt. But the project I had, I think, really nicely kind of brought all my career together. And although it was a challenge, I come from teaching, where it's about giving the next generation or future generations the opportunity. I had a fully mixed crew. As a female sailor in the industry, I wasn't going to turn that down. I needed to support it and show it could be done. I had a fully international crew. So thankfully for me, they all sailed in English. But I had to be super empathetic that these guys, when frustrated or tense or scared or tired, were sailing in their second language. I had 10 nationalities within the team. So it was interesting at times. And then we had, our overarching messaging was about sustainability. And it was right at a time when sustainability was literally transforming everyone's world. The world of sport has taken this on and embraced it. And we kind of started that. The race did an amazing job. The team was talking nonstop about it. And we were doing science at the same time as racing around the world. So I kind of got thrown every challenge possible. But actually, by making it happen, it was probably one of the most rewarding projects I've done.
Yeah.
And going back to those times when you were walking into the skipper's briefing and you're sitting next to them all, who was the greatest skipper that kind of helped guide you? And then answer that, and then I'll ask you the second question.
And I'll ask the third.
I would say that there wasn't any great bonding between the boys and myself.
Oh,
It was, and actually, I don't hold it against them because they probably have no idea that the atmosphere they created was so uncomfortable for me. And a lot of it was probably in my head and making it worse.
Yeah.
If they knew that I was feeling really uncomfortable and stuff, they'd probably be devastated. And so it was quite an interesting dynamic. But the media are the worst people for it. So, every press conference is the same day as the skipper's briefing. It was like the worst day of my stopover. And you go into the press conference and they ask first, second and third about strategy and tactics. They ask Charlie about the environment. And then they ask me about women. And I'm kind of thinking, well, so for all the stopovers, I was quite politically correct for an awfully long time. And then I think the straw just broke or I got a bit tired.
Yeah, what'd you say? What'd you say?
Oh, I just sat there and I said, in all honesty, I think you're asking the wrong person. I'm obviously biased, and maybe you should ask my 6 colleagues here, who all kind of were like, oh God. And it got to that time in the race where people were talking about what was next, and they were organising deliveries or their race crew, and the guys were asking the guys to come sailing with them. And still, even though there was a female on every boat, the girls weren't being included in that conversation. And as the female skipper, I had a lot of the young girls coming to me asking or frustrated with their dynamic in their team or how they were being treated or what they could do next. And so in the end, I just kind of made sure it was out there. And I think it was Cardiff and The Hague where I just kind of said it how it was a little bit. And I kind of kicked myself because I had that platform. I could have said that a lot earlier. But I was being too politically correct.
Well, you don't have to be politically correct with this answer. Who was the biggest dickhead? Apart from all of them at this point in time.
I want to go back into this environment. I might end up sailing, hopefully with them or for them or against them.
No, that's unfair.
We'll say it and we'll edit it out. All right. Well, the question then is who is the person when you've got on a boat with him, you've just gone, holy crap, this person is amazing? Is there someone that's just blowing your mind?
Yeah, I've been in that position twice. And, probably a lot more. But the 2 that really stick out to me, when I finished my Wrong Way Round the World, I was coming into the English Channel to my finish line at the Lizard Lighthouse at Cornwall at the same time that ABN AMRO were coming in to finish and would win the race before even the end of the event. And the first phone call I had on the sat phone coming up to the Lizard Lighthouse was from Mike Sanderson on ABN AMRO, calling me to congratulate me on what I'd done and told me that he'd just told his crew what I'd done and they all thought I was crazy and all this kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, he knows who I am. And he invited me to do the import race with them in Portsmouth when I got in. So I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then obviously at that time was when Hans Horowitz had been lost at sea. So it was a really big cloud over the Volvo at the time. And also Movie Star was abandoning ship. And I was coming up and it was 50 knots. I know because I was in it. And of course I had the steel tank. So they were like, oh, you might have to go on standby to go and pick up the crew. And I was just like, you're kidding me. I've been at sea for 6 months. Please let me just cross the finish line first before I go and pick anybody up. Because it would have just invalidated the trip around the world. And I was like, and I've only got mashed potato left.
And we all know how much Stu likes mashed potato.
So it all kind of, was happening all at the same time. Volvo ended up quite self-sufficient. They went into Portsmouth and I went into Southampton. And then actually I went on ABN AMRO 1 for the import race and I just watched Moose manage his boat in awe. I was literally hanging on his every word, sat at his feet because I wasn't allowed to stick my head up above the deck level. I would have been too much windage.
Too much windage.
Yeah. So literally I was like crouched at his feet, hugging his ankles, listening to his every word. And I was just so impressed at the way he
And it was quite a fruity day from memory.
Yeah, it was quite full on.
Yeah.
And then he had Sydney Gavinier on his crew, and Sydney just seemed to just work constantly. Like he never sat still for about 2 minutes. It was just constant. I couldn't actually tell what he did, but literally he was doing something the whole time.
Super good at coiling ropes is Sydney.
So then I actually got to sail with Sydney on the Mod 70 with a Marne sail, and
Yes.
actually seeing him manage a boat of that caliber with people like me and the Omanis and the mixed crew he had on board. And I did a fast net with him, and we did some regattas in France with him. It was awesome. So actually seeing Moose manage the Volvo team and then seeing Sydney communicate again in a second language, but get exactly what he wanted from a boat that felt like it was on the edge of control all the time. It was really cool. So they're the two standouts for me.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, we all love Moose. He's a great man, and so that Fastnet was the 2011 Fastnet, I reckon.
Makes sense. I've done two in a Mod 70. 2011 and 2013 were Mod 70s for me.
Yep.
And you leave Sunday morning, and I was at home in my bed by Monday night, having finished.
Wow.
It was amazing. I've been spoiled. I'm going to really get shocked this year, I think.
Right.
Well, the Mod 70 are renowned for being on the edge. And were you ever on the edge? Like, holy shit, we're about to go in?
No, only when I've done a delivery with Brian Thompson on Fader and I was driving. So I felt in control because I was in the safe seat. But he was like, maybe you just want to release the main a little bit there. Don't forget your controls are at the feet. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. You do feel like you should wear a parachute rather than a life jacket, though, when you're sat on the windward foil.
Yeah. Dear. All right, well, you alluded to this year's Fastnet. Actually, before we throw, because BP's face just went boing straight away. I know where we're going. But is the new finish line, are you cool with that? What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, as a race, it'd be interesting. You're going to cross the shipping lanes at the end of the race when everyone's pretty tired. And for me, this year, I'll be double-handed on it, which is why Brett's excited. But it's 90 extra miles. The casket separation zone is right in the way. On the way back, you cross the shipping lanes, and then once we go through the breakwater and we have to come home, when we're kind of not with the adrenaline of racing and we are super tired, we've got to cross the shipping lanes to get home again. So it'd be quite interesting, I think.
So apart from that, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're quite a fan.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
And but I'm going to wager you might not be in bed by Monday night.
No.
Yeah, a 33-foot boat against a Mod 70. Yeah, I may be out there a few more days. There's a bit more freeze-dried food to my diet to add.
Yep. Just
So before we talk about the actual what we're all waiting for, how have you enjoyed enjoyed it all?
The double-handed stuff.
Yeah.
I've loved it. And actually, it's I started last year, and I've just really gone back to loving sailing. And I think it's that getting to do everything. I've spent quite a long time in a Volvo environment where everyone's got their roles, and coordinated, you become a really highly efficient team. But sometimes when you're leading that, you do yourself out of a job, because I was empowering everyone around me. I kind of felt like a spare part sometimes. And then you lose a little bit of confidence that you can do all this stuff. And now suddenly I'm back to navigating, to tactics, to trimming, doing the bow. I mean, literally, I don't know what's going on. I'm sailing with a 22-year-old, and he's sat at the back having quite a nice time, and I'm battered and bruised.
Every photo we see,
dropping stuff.
Yeah, every photo we see, there he is, just sitting down the back, driving away, and here you are, all over the place.
But I'm actually quite secretly loving it as well. I don't know if my body's loving it, but I'm definitely loving it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So the 22-year-old, of course, is James Herrera. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sailing in the Sunfast 33, the double-handed thing, obviously a campaign towards the Olympics is part of the motivation. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a mixture of that. So James, I was obviously aware of it and looking at it, and I'd actually been speaking to a lot of the crew from Turn the Tide on Plastic that year when it got decided in 2018. I sent a lot of messages out to the guys saying, you might be interested in this. And I spent a year kind of promoting it to other people. And I think I was kind of then thought to myself, well, is this not something that I would want to do? Yeah. And then James contacted me saying that he was getting a boat and would I have any time available to help him set it up. And we entered into lockdown, and I said, well, I think I may have a lot more time on my hands than I first thought. So we started sailing, and it all seemed to gel quite well. So for me, it's access to a boat. It's been really enjoyable, competitive racing, and I've really enjoyed myself. So then I was like, well, yeah, if there's an opportunity to put the kind of sailing I do on an Olympic platform, why the hell not? But now, obviously, there's a big question mark on that.
And BP's trying to. Are you going to say anything, BP? You're trying to be careful.
If there's two people who should know if there's any sort of insight, what is the latest, BP? Give us the latest, mate, or are we still where we've been for the last week or two?
Well, Dee would probably know as much as I know. I did have a chat with one Matt Allen the other day, and there was obviously a continual push. It's not been dropped. The submission has gone back in, saying this is the shortened version. The course is going to be inside this area. There's no need for the media to be spending 2.4 or 5 million euros, whatever was sort of allocated. That's now been proven that that's not going to happen. The French Navy is going to be there as per normal. So there's all the reasons that were against it are now actually what we would call, not really an argument anymore.
Reasons for it. Yeah.
There is no legitimate reason for not going ahead with it. So the argument is really now based on a decision which we don't really know about.
Which
so
is
all the
a
arguments,
non-sailor's decision.
Well, no, apparently he did the 1984 Singapore Straits on a...
sorry. My mistake.
But, hey, listen, that's here nor there. No, the point is that it hasn't been dropped, and from all of our point of view, we want it to continue. And there's a lot of people who do want it to continue. The original vote was something like 75% for and 25% against back in 2018 or whenever it was. So, clearly it was an interesting event for everyone, and for it to get to where it's got to now, for me, is just it's over and above. The sailing world. There's something going on behind that which we don't know, and unfortunately now they've got no arguments.
So where you at with it, with everything in the UK and everyone that supports it there, Dee?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the growth has been phenomenal. Even throughout a really difficult year last year, it's just continued to grow because the racing that could take part was our racing. So we were out racing loads more than everyone else. And all those boats that rely on 10 people sandwiched on the rail, hanging over the side, just couldn't do anything. And I think it's seen and been amplified this year with the Fastnet entries. 2 years ago, there were 30 boats in the double-handed class. This year, there's 90 boats in the double-handed class.
Yeah,
we are
insane.
Bigger than Class 0 and Class 1 combined this year.
Yep. Wow. It's absolutely true. And if you look at because I follow your fleet quite closely, Dee, believe it or not, and the results and the events that are going on are phenomenal. And numbers like that are staggering. But it's not that number that's actually that staggering. It's what's happening around the planet. There are movements around the planet, like that are bringing this together into something bigger and special over and above the Olympics. Yes, Olympics, no Olympics. Who cares? Let's look at this.
I agree with that. I mean, the Olympics would be, for me as an athlete, would be a cherry on the cake to aim for. But I think the growth of the discipline, it's the sailing that people can relate to because they do that when they go cruising as a couple or a family. It's on boats they relate to.
Yep.
It's the type of sailing they recognise. And actually, for the sailors that are doing it, it's logistically, it's simple. The boats are manageable and it's really fun. And actually, I mean, in the UK here, I know for sure it's super competitive. We won a spring series by 1 second over a course of 3 weekends.
Wow. It's 100% true. And the push is actually bigger than that in the terms of we're looking at doing sort of World Series events, which actually you can do 1, 2, or 3 events around the planet and become a part of a global thing. That is something that is happening. Everyone's talking about this on a 5, 10, 15-year thing. This is not just a flash in the pan. It's going to happen, and we're going to see double-handed racing growing, and that's how that's all there is to it.
So, Dee, from your perspective, you're pretty high profile, particularly in the UK and in the sailing world. You're doing this double-handed thing. Are the sponsors interested? Have you had much interaction from sponsors at all?
No, I mean, I'm proof now that it doesn't matter whether you're looking for millions for an ocean race campaign, millions for a Vendée Globe, or thousands for a double-handed campaign. It's still just as hard to sort out. But I think what's people are struggling with at the moment is with this question mark over the Olympics. They don't know if it's an Olympic drive or whether it's just a sailing campaign with other other races. So I think there's that level until we know for sure, then it's easier to talk about it with clarity. And I think there's that hang up going, oh, is this the Olympic campaign? It's like, well, we don't really know yet. And I think as soon as there's any indecision, people lose confidence a little bit.
Well, at the moment, it's in the representation of the specific countries' bodies, so Australian sailing or the Dutch sail, whatever it might be. The second it goes away from the Olympics, it'll be the clubs that'll have to pick up the ball a bit. But in saying that, I just think it's going to go either way. I think it's going to happen. So.
Well, in the UK here, we've put together a UK double-handed series, and we've just kind of hand cherry-picked the races that we like from Rourke or from round the island, whatever array is in the calendar, and put them together. So there's a series of 6 races, and all the boats are IRC rated, and we've got 27 entries. And that's in its first year. And actually sponsors were quite keen to do the youth award or the mixed award, media award, that kind of thing. So, everyone's a winner.
Yeah, watch this space.
So in Australia for the Sydney Hobart, there's been a little bit of controversy because they've made the decision, the race organisers, you can't win the overall trophy because if you're in a double-hander. Has there anything like that been going on where you are?
No, not at all. And it's a shame that they do that. I mean, what are they scared of?
I don't know.
I mean, the Fastnet doesn't hold back. And actually the French double-handed pair that always seem to win it, the bane of everyone's life. But, I don't see there being a hang-up with it.
It's a growth opportunity for the sport. I mean, that's why Barker exists, to drive more people to our sailing. I think the idea for me, if somebody said, okay, here's a boat, come and, trim main or, kite or whatever, and then stick your legs over the rail for 30 hours, or go and do a double-handed race, I know which one I'd much rather do. It's so obvious, I'd do the one with the luxury catamaran.
The one with a private chef
with an oven
and the onboard media system.
Yeah.
Well, you can't miss a Barkarati episode. He's the fearless leader. Without him, we just fall to pieces.
Got your podcast studio on board.
Oh, that'd be interesting. That would be interesting. So no, to me, it's a no-brainer. The sport really should. This is
embrace.
It's a global change. It's a change in the sport. The technology's advanced where these boats can be raced competitively and easily and safely, and it's a no-brainer. Like, it's the future of the sport, if you ask me. That's just my personal opinion. It is the future.
What's the name of the UK Federation? RYA, is it? They fully support the double-handed movement?
They do, but they are very supportive of what we're doing when we set up the UK series, and they've sponsored one of the awards, and they're definitely in support of it. But they're not proactively doing anything, because I think they were waiting for the decision of, as a governing body, do we have to action this and find a team and do the training and make it happen, or are we not doing that? So I think they've kind of been in this grey area, which has been frustrating.
No, it's a great thing. I mean, I just hope it keeps going. The sport is not charging in terms of numbers coming into the sport, but I think this would bring a lot of people back into the sport. Certainly some of the owners that we've lost would be right into it. So it'll be a ton of fun. It is a shame. Do you have any views? I mean, do you want to say anything about what's going on in the Olympics, or not?
I think we're all going to find out in a couple of weeks. I think there's a big decisions at World Sailing in the next week with the submissions, because they've been asked to put alternative proposals forwards to the IOC.
And you've seen
in
those?
Addition to the mixed offshore. And then, we're hanging on the IOC decision, but that will come by the end of the month, and then hopefully then people can move on and do whatever.
Did you see the submissions, Dee? Because I can give it to you in one word in Jordan's.
Jordan's got quite a. He's quite strong about this one.
I believe it's bullshit.
Oh dear.
He said it twice though. I was shocked. The first time I just nearly fell off my chair. The second one I didn't get up.
Jordan Spence, the animated one.
He's not normally like that, is he? He's
No,
normally
it's
one of
not
us.
because the 505s haven't put a submission in.
No, don't want to go close, do they? We've had a few of those comments.
No, and you know why? Because if they then have to go back to white hulls.
No,
Got to be colourful hulls. That's what it's all about.
I do wonder about. I know the IOC is where the money comes from, but the IOC having the final ruling, it seems a bit like the tail wagging the dog, and the sport's got worse for it. I think the fact
On the Olympic side, yeah.
On the Olympic side, yeah. Like if you look at, I've never been a fan of the medal race, because the sport is about consistency. It's a mathematic thing. I love that element to it. The fact that the pumping's come back in, that pumping that we see on the 470s is, that's the worst thing I've ever. Are you familiar with that pumping, Dee? Do you ever watch the 470? Yep. So,
big comments during the week on that. Did you guys catch up with that?
Yeah, very much so. And Dee would understand it as well, being from the UK and understanding the game of cricket. Because what it does look like is a dog rooting a cricket ball, basically.
Good.
I think you're right with the IOC. I mean, it's very unusual for them to overrule a governing body or an international federation. But we're in this position. And so, as Brett said, whatever reasoning is behind that, we won't ever know.
Yes. And yes, that's it in a nutshell.
I so want to say, I think we all do know, but we're just not allowed to say it. That's all. Anyway. All right. Well, okay. Well, let's move on. So the program for you, it's the double-handed stuff. That's what you've just got ongoing for the moment, or maybe are you doing anything to do with the Ocean Race Europe tour?
Well, it's been really interesting seeing all the boats starting to come out of the marinas and get sailing and see all their crew lineups. But I'm not involved. But I think I'm definitely keeping abreast of the situation and what's going on with that being the next round the world. Equally with the IMOCA boat shuffle that's going on at the moment. After the Vendée, there's always that who's building new, who's selling, who's buying which boat. So that's
and
always
what's available. And what's available.
Yeah. But for me, my sailing, I think with the uncertainty on travel and events and stuff, I committed to the double-handed stuff, knowing that our events would happen. And with it being a Fastnet year, I'm all the Rorke races leading up to the Fastnet. And we have a really good racing season. So I'm confident that I'll get some good racing. But as for long-term plans, who knows?
Who knows?
As I said, I've got lap 7 to do some point.
What is your gut feeling on the ocean race moving forward? And one, like you say, trying to find money, whether it's for the ocean race or the Vendée, or not necessarily the ocean race in itself singled out, but in corporate sponsorship in sailing in general?
You'd say it was difficult. I mean, from my experience, it's difficult finding the money. Getting to the start line's the hardest bit. And there's a lot of different countries we're seeing with this Ocean Race Europe. There's a lot of new blood and probably new kind of money pots that hopefully they're trying to
new
attract.
Markets. Yeah, sure.
New markets, that's the word. Thank you very much. But then you look at something like the Vendée Globe and the French market, and there doesn't seem to be any problem with sponsorship.
Exactly. Straight back into it.
Solitaire boats coming out. There is all the IMOCAs are, extending or doing deals, and
it's surreal,
it's incredible.
isn't it? It's surreal. It is surreal.
Yeah.
I just wish the rest of the world would have a look at this as some form of model. I don't know how they do it, but it just keeps happening.
It's a different way of thinking, and we haven't quite got that thinking across to other countries yet. So if we can change that, then it would be great. But you wouldn't think there was a problem in France, but the rest of the country or the rest of the world, I'd say, is struggling a little bit. People have been hit hard, and people are in a difficult situation right now. So getting them to part with some money for sailing, even though you can give the returns and give the marketing and give the guarantees with something like the Ocean Race, it's a corporate machine that can deliver for them, but it's a lot of money, and it's a sport they're not confident with because they're not used to it. They don't see it on TV.
Well, Bossy, you're out getting blackmail photos from the executive director of the race last night or yesterday, so we'll be doing a very exclusive interview shortly.
I must admit, I did go through my phone this morning to see if there's anything incriminating, but all clear.
Speaking of incriminating and Bossy, what's the worst thing you've seen him do on on the ocean race?
Oh, what goes on the ocean race stays on the ocean race, right?
Went on tour.
Nice answer.
But I remember
Definitely,
that
and
one.
if you got a job done by the boatyard, you do not let them down. You do not dob them in later on because you know where you're going to go when you need help.
Oh dear, the boatyard. Hey, good times. Hey, did you like the boatyard concept?
I liked it just because it was really sociable. You'd go in and there'd be a whole group of people. There'd be bicycles writing somewhere and there'd be beers in a corner somewhere. No, it was. I think it helped level everything out a lot and stopped the money game. And if you look now, that's where, whether you like the boats or not, whether they were comfortable to sail or not, it was the closest, most phenomenal racing there was. Everybody wanted to be part of that last edition of the Ocean Race because it was so close. And the interest is still there with the 65s.
I guess
we brought it up last week,
Just going to that, sailing into Den Haag at the end of that race, I remember seeing you guys coming down to the finish line and every single person on every single boat had the biggest grin you can imagine, regardless of where they were positioned. So that must have been a pretty phenomenal thing.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it went right on to that last import race, and we were the only ones that could still change position in that last import race. And how we managed to pull that off, I have no idea, because we actually had to put 2 boats behind us or between us and Scallywag, and we managed that.
And they wrapped themselves
we
around
felt like
the
we'd won the whole bloody race by then.
Yeah,
everyone else felt like we'd won the race as well then.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. It's an amazing event. What about just sort of coming to the end of our time? But what about when you look at boats nowadays? Is there any boat out there that you just go, oh wow, like what boat's rocking your world? As a fan of the sport.
Well, I think I've always got a soft spot for the IMOCAs, just having been there, and I like that scene. I like what they do. And, if we're talking double-handed, the Transat Jacques Vabre goes this year, which will be like a pinnacle showcase of double-handed sailing. But I have to admit that I was sucked in by the Sail GP first event in Bermuda this year. I mean, we've been spoiled in our kind of restricted travel world that we've all lived in. We went through the Vendée Globe over the winter, which was gave us entertainment for everybody. We went straight into the Prada Cup and America's Cup, and then Sail GP just delivered that explosion. That I have to say was pretty impressive. Harry is there. He works on the other side of things and is a bit more kind of cynical about it all. But I was like, I'm a viewer, and I was blown away with how full on that was.
Did you ring Abby and say, not in kilometres now, Abby, can you change the graphics back to knots?
She got so much grief for that. I didn't dare upset her any further. But I spent my whole first day, with the conversion. I was like, how fast is that? I have no idea. And even Stevie Morrison was like, and in old money, that means 20 knots. And you're like, thank you.
Yeah, it was bizarre, isn't it?
Rumour has it was the producers had just launched an app the day earlier for the conversion. And it sold out.
Well, apparently the sailors have to work with all the data the sailors get is now kilometres per hour as well, so they're having to deal with it. And they've all got little conversions written up so they can do some easy
Isn't it funny? We all drive cars with kilometres an hour, but you take us out of our comfort zone on boats, I'm not happy. Not happy.
No.
What is it, Jordan? What is it, Jordan?
Yeah, Sorry, Dee, keep going. So then, all right, I'll come back in then with you love the IMOCAs. Is there one IMOCA boat that you just drool over at the moment, or 2 or 3, or which one's rocking your world?
I think I was really impressed with Apivia, but I knew Charlie had the wherewithal to deliver as well. So I think as a boat and sailor, match made in heaven, that was really good, and he'd had so much input into his boat. And the only frustration I had was Coram and Occitan looked the most exciting, but we never really got to see them.
Yeah. That's a really good
So
point.
I think there's a lot of potential in the new builds that are coming, and there's a lot of talk about new builds, which is massive for the iMokka fleet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jeremy Bayou's building basically the next Occitan, right?
Correct.
Well, the next evolution.
Yeah,
So-
and Tripon himself wants a new Occitan because Occitan's gone to Louis Burton now.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
The trading table is open.
Yeah.
Louis, I think Louis is doing the Europe tour with the ocean race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. There's so much going on. So much going on. And Apivia, of course, Bicey smiled when you mentioned Apivia.
Yeah, Super 60.
Yeah, that's all the work.
Evolvement of the Super 60.
That's it.
It was Apivia and Linked Out that were the evolutions of the Super 60, wasn't it?
Yep. So Linked Out was the hull, and Pivia was a little bit converted. So
Nice.
There you go.
Credit.
Oh, that's right. You know how a lot of that design came about, though, don't you? We were sitting there having a beer. What about every time we have a beer, let's throw this at it and let's throw that at it. There was
a lot of late night designs happening.
yeah, late night design. That's
Well,
it.
maybe you should get involved in that again with some Sailors Lager beer, and then you'll be all right.
Oh, look at that. Cross promoting. Well done, Dee. You're on fire.
Oh, see, I might get invited back if I keep doing well like
Here,
this.
you might get the merchandise pack too.
Wow.
I love it. Love
Well, when I
it.
come down to Australia, when we're allowed, I'll sail Brett's X2,
X2.
and I'll drink your Sailors
Lager.
No, the X2 is going to be in the UK next year. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm
You'll be-
impressed.
you'll be-
I
you'll
will
be sailing.
stand by for my invite for a test sail.
Yeah, you'll be there. Don't worry.
It'd be good. Good times. Cool. All right. Well, we're kind of at our time. I hate to say it, but that's all right. You just keep doing more adventures, and you can just come back on and tell us about them if you want.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, well, thanks, Steve. It's been, as we knew it would be, a lot of fun. So good to see your face again. It's a shame it's so far away. But, yeah, and lots of love to Harry as well.
Thank you, will do. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Dee.
Good on you,
Thanks
Dee.
for joining. Ciao. Rightio, boys, I've just been online and I've purchased Dee's book, and we're going to start doing our episode of
that's such a
reviewing
good idea.
books.
Okay.
going
Audible.
forward. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll just do it for her. We'll do the audio record, send it to her.
Send it.
We'll just all read out a chapter or something like that.
Yeah. No, we'll read it all
Nighttime,
together.
You want some
nighttime,
dulcet tones?
nighttime stories with Baccarati.
Hey, how impressive though, and inspirational, and I mean it's easy to say inspiring for women in sailing, but just inspiring for sailors in general.
That's it,
I mean,
yeah.
it's fantastic. And Dee's been a great mate for many years, and she continues to do a great job. So
Just about to say, unlike you guys, I've actually never met her personally. So from my point of view, looking at it from this side, it's even more impressive when you think when you actually delve into what she's done. You know, just what was it, 88 days between the capes?
Yeah, that's crazy.
well, that's why we need three of us narrating it, because there might have been 3 or 4 different voices.
she made. That's a good one. I like that. Oh, dear.
It is amazing. I mean, it is just truly amazing. What a story. So yeah, I mean, loved it.
Cool. Right, Secret Pro News. We've discussed our Secret Pro News, and yet again, we're not going to tell you.
We're gonna sit on it. Who had me this week? Oh, somewhat like last week when we said we couldn't mention anything,
Yeah.
and had the CYC SA presentation night, Friday night.
Yes, you did.
And
I did.
3 or 4 people asked me, what was the Secret Pro News? What was the Secret Pro News?
Did you tell
So
them?
I just made up some bullshit.
That's not like us. That's not like us. You've got to keep within our mantra.
No, you're right. 100% serious. 23% of the time.
So this week, so we'll skip past Secret Pro, and this week I think we're going to have to step past Listener of the Week, because we've got some really amazing emails coming through, but it's all controversy, Like
Yes.
there's
Controversy of the week.
controversy of the week. Like we've got
Yeah.
just make it up as we go along. Controversy of the week.
We've got a fire starter email about etchels. Like, it's like somebody throwing a hand grenade. So we can't do that one. We don't want to cause problems. We've got one from the States about people hitting marks and not going around, and
which carries on from our discussion last week.
Yeah. And we've got I've had a great set of correspondence from, last week I went up to Tin Can Bay for the Beta Bay. So in the Harvey Bay region, which is in behind Fraser Island, I think second largest sand island in the world or something like that, largest sand island in the world. And there's some controversy, lads. So I won't mention names because I don't want to get people in trouble. And I'm not attributing this to Tin Can Bay Yacht Club because I had a great time there. And I had a great conversation with their Vice Commodore, Kay. She was a lovely lady. We ended up chatting for a good hour and having a fantastic time. But there has been some controversy, and I'll tell you in very general terms what's going on. So the race happened. It's basically trailer sailors, trimarans, but anything that's trailable showing up. The results came out. It's all performance handicap rated. After the race, a week after the race, the performance handicap ratings were changed.
What? Well, one shout out to Valir Odu.
He's a great man.
Who sent the photo in of the boat of them having a few sailors' lagers with the shoot up, it looks like.
So he's one of the great men that helps out at Noosa Yacht Club. Does a lot of training.
Basically, you are saying you're responsible for getting these handicaps changed after chatting with the Vice Commodore and discussing if anyone is drinking sailors' lager, their handicap system changes and they need to win.
That is a good idea. I wish I'd thought of that.
I'll tell you what, I'm just reading your notes here, Jay.
Yes, go on.
I had read them.
Yeah.
I'm flabbergasted. That's the best word for it.
Flabbergasted? Yeah.
How can that be done when isn't there like a time?
Are you allowed
limit?
Are you allowed to tell them what has been done? I mean, is that what we want to do here?
You can read it if you want, BP.
No, I'm not. You are. You got the email.
So obviously your performance or your handicap ratings before the start, that's it. They're fixed. So there shouldn't be any change afterwards. I mean, that's the logic of the system, isn't it? I mean, am I naive in thinking that?
No, well, you come into a regatta knowing what your handicap is, right?
Yeah.
Or a race or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's a prior.
Yeah. So there was this whole element that the results were out and then the results changed a week later. The initial allegation was it was because two separate female skippers had done very well, in fact, 1-1, then it got changed. And so there was allegations of sexism, but it's happened through the fleet. There wasn't just limited to females. So there's a new winner, and I'm not...
Oh.
The person that won, I don't know the person particularly, but there's just this... I don't want to attribute blame to anyone, and I don't... I'm trying to step very... There's a lot of allegations going around and some people are upset, which seems... The reason I'm interested in it is if it's true and the handicaps were changed after the race,
yep,
that's wrong. That's wrong.
Even if it was a mistake prior to the race, to change them after?
It's locked in. It's on paper.
So that's the thing I'm focused on. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's like last week. We discussed it last week how the arbitration committee or whoever was involved had the power and ability to choose a penalty in a black and white rule. I don't. We don't understand that. What?
So what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know, mate.
What is going on? It's a bit weird. Like, one of the things we said is no negativity. COVID. Oh, boss.
COVID. They've all got COVID. Man. No, they haven't. No, so, I just think we need to set it straight. One of the other complaints was someone hit a mark in a US regatta, coming from probably our number one fan, and had said, we lost a position because of it. And he's saying the same thing, you know, like we've lost. Where's the honour gone in the sport, and why and how are results being able to be changed and or dictated to when it's a black and white situation? In this case, it's black and white.
It's pretty clear, gents.
You're right, okay.
Because of this, in this woke world that we live in, we have to take away the gentleman's side of things.
No.
No.
So I think, right, so one of the things that we've got to be careful how we present this, because no negativity is one of our things. So we're raising this as a debate, okay? So if it's happening, our view, and we may be completely uninformed, we may not know the full story, but our view from the first hearings of what we've heard and the allegations we've seen is that we don't like what's going on. And as Bicey is wont to say, whenever the stress was flying out in the most high-powered professional events in the world, when we've been in the middle of some quite stressful times, Bicey will shut it all down and get it back into perspective by saying one simple phrase. Do you remember that phrase, Bice?
I remember when something good happened.
It's just a yacht race, fellas. That's all it is.
It's just a yacht race. We're not bloody curing cancer here. Yeah.
Just settle down.
Just a yacht race.
Just a yacht race.
It's exactly true. It's exactly true, and we've got to get that mentality and mantra back. And this whole thing of changing rules, changing numbers, and not abiding by the rules, stop. That's it.
Yeah. And let's make the sport fun and interesting. That's it. That's all we want.
It is fun.
And if you are getting really angry about it, don't. Okay. I can understand the Etchell guys because they've had
that's commercialised, that one.
And a lot of money's just gone down the tubes. But everyone else, it's just a yacht race. It's an excuse to have a beer with your mates. That's what it is. Your friends. And but if that is happening, I don't think it's right. That's all we wanted to say. I'll tell you what is right with the world, though. As we mentioned last week, it's the 5th of May, 505 Day. My God, have the 505s got some photos on Facebook this week.
Haven't they just? Everyone's coming out.
Everyone.
Yeah. I'd like to attribute it to you, the one great Jordan Spencer, for the high promotion, like probably over promotion, probably more than you need to do. Okay. But
it's just naturally instilled in the brain. It can't leave the brain. It's got to mention it once or twice a week. You know what I mean?
I can't talk. By the way, anyone see those rainbows this week? Yeah. No, you're right though, Jay. And some beautiful shots.
Yeah.
Yes, we cannot take that away.
Yeah, we know they're a photogenic boat.
And got a whole heap of calibre that sail the 5-0. And you look back in some of those photos and see who's standing there in the boat park, and it's like, that would have been a nice place to be.
I mean, I think it's only sort of Ian Gregg, I reckon, was the guy that suggested. So Ian Gregg is an Australian 505 sailor, a Queenslander, and he threw this idea out about, 5 or 6 years ago, and it's suddenly happening, and it's happened hard. So other classes will probably try and do it, but it's worked. It's great promotion for the class. It's a good one.
I don't know that it'll work for other classes.
And International 505 Association, you're welcome.
Yeah. They listen hard, mate. They love the coverage. And all the other classes, we're happy to give you coverage. Just make the relationship. So
just send money.
Just send money. Yeah, no. Another good news story during the week, gentlemen. Fantastic news story. Our guest from last week.
Guest of the week.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence?
I don't think it is.
Right.
It's not. It is. No, it's not. No, it's not.
What are you saying?
Everything.
Possibly.
Yes.
Rumour has it. The call-up. So Nina's been named. She got her spot in the Oz Sail GP team.
Yep.
Is it a coincidence she was on last week?
No, it's not.
And she's
Russell, we know you listen, mate.
Yeah, she does. Yep.
Good call. Good pull of the strings there.
Yeah. She's still in quarantine too, so she'll be sitting there just buzzing because that means she's got to get back on the plane and go again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think
on their way to Italy.
A fiance, I think it's Pierre from memory. I don't know that guy. I've never met him, but Pierre has to hold the fort down in the new business, of course.
Good luck with the magnesium.
Yeah, for another year.
So I don't actually think you've mentioned what's actually happened. She's been selected officially for the Australian Sail GP team, and she's off. So yes, and
well done, Nina.
I actually gave her a call on Friday morning, and just to sort of make sure she was, okay there in quarantine, and she was pretty buzzing still. She was happy about Barkarati, that is.
Good vibes.
Yeah. Second best thing that happened to her all week was getting named in the Australian Sail GP team.
and she told me straight up. She said, "Oh, I tell you what, it was the second best.
Yeah,
second best bit of news."
All right. As we come to the end of the show, just let people know there's a heap going on this week. Obviously, I think the 49er Europeans are just finished. 470 Euros have just finished. If you want to go and check out some information, I'm not going to go through it. The Finn Gold Cup, which is the big deal in the Finns, that's their World Championships, has started day 1 today, I think, as we're recording this. Actually, I've got the results if we want. Day 1, Finn Gold Cup. So Andy Maloney leading the way from New Zealand. Old Andy, hey?
There you go.
13 points. John Cardona from Spain. And Zomba Bericic.
Jombo. From Hungary.
In Hungary, yeah. And my old mate Jake in 10th.
Ooh, Jakey boy.
Yeah, so good mix. Good mix. Josh Jr. in 5th. So Josh, I think, was the selection for New Zealand because he won the Worlds. And now Andy's out there.
Andy's there.
Yeah, interesting times. But speaking of emails this week, obviously I got an email or saw a little note, well, we got a little note on our page about, with all this debate going on with the double-handed offshore thing and saying, just put the bloody fin back in. Yeah, we hear you, but it's just, as I've said multiple times, it's not going to happen because it's got to be equal male and female. Whatever the solution is, the mandate is it has to be equal male and female. And the fin, I guess you could do a mixed fin. I'm not sure how.
No, we discussed this.
44 kilograms each.
Yeah.
Double-handed fin. No. Sorry.
Anyway, so that's got the fin out. So the only class that could actually represent for people of size is obviously we could do match racing or we could do the double-handed offshore. But
I think as I sort of mentioned earlier, it's on the top of the table, the resubmission, if you like. But I just don't know, how far it's gone and how many. It's like egg on face if it goes back the other way. You know what I mean?
No, it's just got to be what's right for the sport. I don't.
Well, that's our opinion.
Yeah, yeah. All the other stuff is stupid. What's right for the sport is what should be up there, and what's fair for all the sailors out there. That's the other thing: the opportunity and the way to embrace it. So, yeah. Any other things we want to bring on? We've got a little bit serious this episode.
Yeah, tends to happen sometimes.
Yeah,
only got 23%.
It's like a normal chat at a bar. Sometimes that's just how it rolls.
Yeah. There's a few actually. Just thinking about it, boys. There's a sign off. Where I live in Australia, obviously we all know, is quite warm in winter. It doesn't get cold.
The cows don't like getting up too early.
Yeah, but man, there's some regattas coming up.
Yes, there is.
Some regattas, like we've got, the Australian sports boats.
Yep.
The Etchels. What else? There's a few others. There's a big dinghy regatta coming up on the Wivenhoe Dam, which is everything. It's like a big inland dam, and that'll start, and we may be able to take some beers down for that. See who's after. But, it's busy up here. There's another regatta. I'm sure there's another regatta. Oh, the VX1s, of course, the VX1s.
Oh, yep, they're going again.
Yeah, they've got their midwinter Australians. So it's a busy time. Come on up.
I like
too.
See you soon.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you're coming up. But BP.
Here.
BP, yep. You've got a boat that's not legal. You've got your own regatta that you're forming, the Mould 11 regatta.
Yep.
The Cheetahs Cup.
Everyone's invited.
The Cheetahs Cup.
No, you're not going to say it. You can't keep saying that. You can't keep fueling the fires.
I'm not fueling any fire. Everyone knows I'm joking.
We think it's the biggest travesty in yachting.
Anyway. But yes, no, that is the truth. On the 22nd, 23rd, there is some, I guess, mini regatta type things being put together, and everyone's invited. If you're in Sydney, or if you even want to travel by sea, come up and have a weekend. Bring the boat up halfway to Mooloolaba and come and do some sailing. And there is actually going to be a few events between now and the start of next season, so it could work by sea. If you want to bring your boat up and do a pre Australians event, come on up.
The only other thing I reckon I should throw out there, gentlemen, just before, it's not on the run sheet, just have you guys, do you watch the second-hand boat market at all? Do you guys ever look?
Mate, I didn't buy the old Birdie 23 from just flicking through the local trader
advertiser.
That's the powerboat market. I've never looked at a powerboat.
Between watching four-wheel drive videos, second-hand boat market, mate, I'm all over that shit.
Yeah.
How crazy is it right now?
Yeah.
Like,
it's nuts.
You've got, when you, a mate of mine's looking for a 45-foot cat. He was around here today, and I went out for dinner with him Friday night, and a boat popped up, and I said, better get on the phone, mate, if you want it.
Right. Yep.
There's it'll be gone by tomorrow. It's insane. It's bizarre.
Can
I add to that?
Yeah, go for it.
It's actually the whole market. The whole market.
It's like trying to buy a caravan. Trying to buy a camp trailer. By the way, Adventure Campers camp trailer for sale.
Same in surfboards, mate. It's bizarre. Like, it's just, and for all those people buying surfboards, stop, please, because I like the waves to be empty. Just me and my wife. Otherwise, I get grumpy. So can you stop?
Yeah, please. It's really help us out.
Don't like it when he's grumpy. Yeah. So if you've got a surfboard, don't go anywhere near Jordan when he's surfing, please.
You'll recognise him. He's like a bobblehead on a surfboard.
Actually, it'd be really funny in a wetsuit, wouldn't it?
If we ever did bobbleheads, I'd be the only one with the actual life-size head ratio.
That's how they came up with the zips on the elbows, on the shoulders.
Oh, there, yeah.
Get the Jordan's head through.
The big square-headed bit.
All righto, wander up.
Come on, we could go on forever. Talk about not being serious.
Love it. I think we're going to have a pretty good one next week as well. Thanks heaps, Dee, for joining us. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes. Thanks for all the support, everyone.
Yeah, we're loving it. Keep
really
sending
love
your
it.
messages in. You might make it as listener of the week and get a
merchandise pack. May or may not be delivered. Australia Post, damn them.
Yeah, useless.
And hit us up for beers, because we do have a few left. Because we do have a few left. Otherwise, all the actual blacks are going to drink them.
Yep.
Not the Mould 11 guys.
Yeah, there'd be like three of us there.
Oh, come on, move on.
Okay.
See you later.
See you, blokes.
See you, fellas.
All my stars are around tonight. Take me where the wind